Good. Hey, thank you.
Yes. Hello.
Good to have you with
Hi.
us again. Yeah.
Good to be with you guys again.
What do you have for us tonight?
We have a song called Wait and See. Those of you who were here last time probably know what I'm going to say, but this is another one of my brother's tunes. He is a couple years younger than me. He's in the Peace Corps right now. He's living in Senegal, West Africa. Not for long. He's been there for almost 2 years, but he'll be home in a week or two? A week. So we're kind of counting down the days, but so he wrote this one about a year ago, and he sent it to us, and I immediately just fell in love with this one. It's got a great message, and we just love the song. It's called Wait and See, and it's about uncertainty, actually. Uncertainty about life and relationships and jobs. It's everywhere. But I think the cool part about this song is that in the end, I think what he was trying to deliver in this was that whatever I've been searching for or reaching for, I'll know it when I'm there because you'll be waiting for me. I think is kind of what it gets to in the end. So yeah, this is Wait and See by my brother.
One moment you left and forgot to tell me where it was you were gonna go. I hold tight here, darling, wonder about you. There's just a couple things I've gotta know.
There once was a kid who forgot to go home. He learned the hard way what it was to be on his own. That day came and went so far behind him. A bitter memory of what should have been.
I carry on along this winding road, no sense of where to go. But when I get there, well, I guess I'll know, 'cause you'll be waiting for me. I carry on along this winding road, no sense of where to go. But when I get there, well, I guess I'll know, 'cause you'll be waiting for me. I guess I'll wait and see.
Well, darling, I'm coming, so don't you fret now. It's been a long time, but we've made it somehow.
I think I still want you, yet things have changed so. There's never a true way to really know. I carry on along this winding road, no sense of where to go. But when I get there, well, I guess I'll know, 'cause you'll be waiting for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, welcome to the Brew Ha-Ha, the second half of Darkwood Brew, in which we just engage in free-flowing conversation between you who are physically present here in the coffee house, you who are online, and those of us up front. This is it's Q&A, but it's also time to just come out and say what you think as well. And just before we go on, I want to make two acknowledgments. One, it's my mother's 79th birthday today, so happy birthday, Mom. And the other is more somber. Those of you who've been watching Darkwood Brew know Tracy Halverson, who joins us every week to be our Pneuma Divina reader, and she experienced the loss of her father this week on Sunday, Roger, who died at age 80 in eastern Iowa, and so the services for her father this weekend. So she's doing what she needs to do back with family tonight. So we keep Tracy Halverson and her entire family in our thoughts and our prayers.
Amen.
So,
Well, I know that Randy has a question now. So, Randy?
let's hear it.
Yeah, for our online community, we have a question for Frank. In replacing away from your addiction to certainty, was there any sense in which a quest for a new clarity was part of that change for you?
I'll just add that person who made that comment was Bob Grove Markwood, who's the executive director of the BTS Center in Maine, Portland, Maine.
Hey, not too far from where I live in Newburyport, Massachusetts. Yeah. So I better give him the right answer. He'll come down.
Exactly.
Wait a minute,
Now
this
he
guy
knows where
lives
you
too
live.
close to my house. No, that's a very good question. Yeah, I think, I mean, again, this is going to sound like, ha-ha's ho, the inscrutable prophet, but, clarity for me has come realizing that I think we reject the idea of mortality. We don't admit that life is short. We don't admit we are mortal and limited and finite. And so what we do is we seek answers for things that actually are unanswerable. And so for me, the clarity is to accept the fact there is no clarity in a lot of areas. There are no guarantees of correct faith. For me, the big transition is this. I grew up in a fundamentalist kind of a mindset that you were saved in this life and the next by correct ideas, which is insane, of course, because no finite, limited person can have a correct idea about anything. We always have only partial information. So for me, clarity came in realizing that it couldn't be that it had to be about the content of our character and about what we learn on this journey. So yes, admitting paradox and embracing it is a form of clarity, but it's to accept the fact that we only look through the glass darkly. We don't really see. And there's a real peace that comes with that because you don't feel duty-bound to always find the answer and really start living more existentially day to day in every area of your life, whether it's relationships or writing or painting or having grandchildren or just your relationship with God.
Yeah.
And that, to me, the clarity is the acceptance, the fact that there isn't always clarity.
Right, and that there actually, kind of add to that, there's oftentimes more to our story, far more than we see, and we
Right.
may have some immediate kind of, here's why I'm doing this now, it's kind of clear to me on a certain level, but there could be all kind of surplus of meaning to that will only come clear, in distant hindsight. You look back and say, oh my gosh, this was actually connected to
Yeah.
something that happened much later. That if it, there's an organic connection we perceive, which is kind of actually what one of the viewers on the chat this evening was wrote in asking you, do you think that the passage from Micah tonight pointed to Jesus, or did Jesus' followers see the connection later? And could the answer to that question be yes? Meaning, could both be true?
Sure.
Certainly, my strong hunch would be Micah saw this as something that was forthcoming, something that had immediate kind of, or near term, meaning maybe even decades, but near term effects. But when you sense something like this, could it also have a surplus of meaning that we see?
And something I remember talking with you about last time I was here is this idea that some things are true that never happened.
Right.
Because they're happening all the time.
Yes.
And that, I think, applies to a lot of things. For me, this kind of uncertainty principle and this embrace of paradox also goes into the fact that, I think sincerity is a very overrated virtue, too. I mean, how deeply do you have to believe before you believed enough?
Right.
Well, come on, get off it. That's not the point. The point is, again, the content of our characters, but also when it comes to this sincerity being an overrated virtue, I think one of the areas that we get off on is that when we look at what we believe, we pretend we've come up with it. Let's be honest. 99% of, quote, belief is not because you have a good idea or you went to Princeton. It's circumstances. If you and I had been born in 15th century Riyadh and our father had been an imam, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this. So we're talking about Jesus, we're talking about the Bible, we're talking about our tradition. People ask me, I remember Christopher Hitchens, the author, the atheist author, emailed me a bunch of times after he read my memoir, Crazy for God, saying, I really liked the book, but I'm disappointed when I got to the last chapter because you don't make a firm declaration that you're now an atheist. Well, I got similar letters from evangelicals who said, we're really sad because you don't end the book with a ringing declaration of your faith in Jesus. But if you changed a line or two, what they both wanted was certainty. But I'm on a journey, so that wasn't what the book was about, which is what, why I'm an atheist who believes in God came out of really answering these, getting sick of writing the same email to different people all the time and just, okay, damn it, I'll write a book. That's right. But the point I'm trying to make is that we overrate sincerity, we overrate belief, we overrate correct ideas, and we don't actually admit that really a lot of it is just circumstances and personality. So someone will say to me, well, why do you still go to church if you have these doubts and these questions? Isn't that sort of hypocritical? And I say, yeah, it is. There's a lot of things in life that are hypocritical, and thank God for them. For instance, my parents' harsh theology, they didn't actually treat people that way. They were very kind to them. They were very progressive in the way they treated them. One reason I go to church is because that's how my mother raised me. You got a problem with that? You got a better reason? Or like the old monk said to me on Mount Athos one time when I came at him 25 years ago or so with this evangelical idea about communion. I said, why do you give communion to newborn babies? They don't understand what it is. And he looked at me and he said, well, do you? Yeah. So, all this certainty stuff is crap, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know stuff. We just do it for various reasons and deal with it.
Yeah. You remind me of actually a lot of people say, well, why do we use terms about God that seem to be anthropomorphic?
Right.
That put God as a personality and
Yes.
feelings and all these things. It's like, well, if I wasn't a human being, maybe I would be writing about God. But because I'm a human being, how
Yes.
else can I write about? How else can we understand God?
Yeah, we don't call him the great lizard.
Yeah, that's right. If we were lizards, we'd
If we were
write about
lizards,
God
we'd say,
differently
yeah.
or speak about God differently.
We love his scales.
That's right. I understand there's another question from the Darkwood Brew coffee house community here.
From John.
From John. Hi, John.
I was wondering, growing up a fundamentalist like you did.
Just a second. Let's make sure your mic is on.
It's on.
It's
Okay.
on.
Okay, it's on. Sorry.
I was wondering, growing up as a fundamentalist like you did, do you miss the music?
Me?
Yeah,
I didn't grow up fundamentalist.
No,
so
he
it
didn't.
must be you.
but you know the music.
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Uh-huh.
I do. Yeah, the hymnology, of course, wasn't anything that my kind of fundamentalists invented. I mean, we were fortunate. There were people standing in the wings like Bach and Martin Luther who could actually write hymns. Mm-hmm. So we borrowed a lot. We were Presbyterians. We were lucky. It wasn't all happy clappy nonsense. We actually had some real musical chops there. And yeah, I mean, the hymnology of the Protestant community is fantastic and has deep, deep, magnificent roots, but I don't feel I've lost that. It's another one of these things where I refuse to make a black and white decision. So, you know, if I want to sing Christmas carols until I'm blue in the face, I'll do it. And if I want to feel like a fundamentalist one day and get all, you know, sentimentally attached to the old certainties, I'll do that too. You know, I think there's a freedom in allowing yourself to be in the moment and not saying, okay, that was my period, that was a period in my life, I'm done with it. I won't do that. So, you know, for me, the hymnology of the church, the teachings, the sentimentality, the certainty at some points, the Bible stories, the flannel graph, you know, especially in talking to my own grandchildren, I bring those stories in. I talk to them about it, and I share it with them. I don't have any embarrassment about that. It's not like that was past. It's all happening at the same time. It's just I approach these things differently now.
Excellent.
But I haven't rejected them.
Anne has a question too.
All right, Ann.
As an educator, teaching over many, many years, I have noticed that children's patience is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And it's often due to the fact of technology today, where they can have instant gratification, instant messaging, instant information on the internet, instant movies, instant everything. So a lot of our students don't understand the word patience. And we're having to teach them what patience means, and it's very difficult. Have you, with the technology, with the advent of technology, do you agree with that, or what are your feelings about
Are you
what
talking to me?
technology? Both of you is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I talk about rewiring the brain. I mean, I think our brains are being. I don't think it's just kids. You know, I look around now at any restaurant or any gathering of people, and what do you see? Half of them are got their faces in their phones. You know now, and getting instant information, and I participate in that. Not hopefully as much as intensively as some, but I think it's rewiring our brains to some extent. Where I find some hope in this is that I think we're still young in the. I mean, with technology, we're still like. We're basically like people who just yesterday were riding camels in the desert, and suddenly we got this technological age, which in world time or even in human time is just 30 seconds ago. So we're still kind of getting to understand what's happening to us. But when I think about how we find the patience, then I think there's going to be a new kind of patience that's not simply like I'm going to wait for the answer, but rather I'm going to step into a flow, and it's going to be more like a river. You know, a river is an amazingly patient kind of thing. You know, eventually it's going to get there, but it's always going to be moving at the same time. And so there's going to be a peace and a stillness, but it's going to be only through learning to kind of to step into a flow and not to simply look for these fixed points so much.
Yeah, well, when it comes to kids, I'm very involved with these little grandchildren of mine who live across the street, as well as my older grandchildren who live in Europe, and then, of course, my own kids who are all grown up now. And I share your concern. There was an interesting article in the New York Times a couple of years ago that I used a bit of a quote in something I was writing about this Waldorf school in Silicon Valley near Los Gatos, California. And they were interviewing the parents who were sending their kids there, and they were all the presidents and owners and CEOs of the big high-tech companies. Like Google and all the rest of it, and they were saying, well, there are no computers in this school at all. And this guy said, hey, listen, there's nothing a kid needs to know about a computer that they can't learn until they're after 16. And this is one of the vice presidents of Google. And so they were saying, well, isn't it a little bit ironic that you guys and Microsoft and everybody else who have kids at this school in which there is no high tech even allowed, taking the sort of Montessori approach and the Waldorf approach. And he was saying, oh, yes, it's terrible for kids' concentration. And I wouldn't let my kids have a computer or an iPad or anything like that. And this is the guy selling it to you and to me, but not to his kids. So that should tell you something. I basically think it's not a question of right and wrong. It's a question of age appropriate. And for me personally, I'm not scared of age appropriate stuff in terms of nudity or a swear word or whatever. That's not what scares me. What scares me is crap on one's, and that comes a lot from the big entertainment companies like Disney and other people as well. It isn't just bad stuff, but this whole ability. So, with these grandchildren of mine, I'm keeping them away from screens. We'll watch something beginning, middle, and end, a concert or a ballet or something like that, or a piece of music. But in terms of the day-to-day stuff, it's rolls of butcher paper, paintbrushes, clay, walks, outside, sand, dirt, garden, grow stuff, pick it later. You wouldn't even know you passed the 20th, let alone the 21st century in terms of the hands-on approach I take with these children. And it's just a gut thing tells me that intuitively, a child should first address the world in a tactile, real way and not have a mediated translation through fast cuts, soundtracks, and all. That's not the way information really should. So I don't think it's wrong in and of itself. I think that it has to do with child brain development and, really it's crazy to have kids plunging into that world before they've been able to have a relationship and actually know how this stuff works.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a gut thing. I'm not a neuroscientist, but that's certainly from observation. These grandchildren of mine are doing very well with a tactile relationship with reality, and I'd hate to see that replaced.
Yeah. Without disagreeing with you in the slightest, in fact, affirming everything you just said, I would just simply add to that on the other side of it. I mean, for the last 15 years, I've given workshops on use of multimedia in worship. It's something I swore I would never do because I was very technological adverse.
Yeah.
But people would always regularly ask in these workshops, well, gosh, how do I get from where I'm at to doing stuff like this?
Sure.
And what they're always asking, like, what software do I need, or what computer do I need? And for the last easily 10 years, my consistent answer has actually been, it's not about the technology, it's not about the software. The main thing you need, your main resource, is patience. Because if you've ever tried to learn technology, it actually takes an extraordinary amount of patience. And if you don't have patience, you never learn the technology. And so you got to have patience. And if you don't have patience as a minister, well, you're going to be probably not a good minister anyway. So hopefully you have patience. And if you have patience, then you can do these things too.
Hey, where did the pears go, man?
Oh yeah, well that's later on. That's
patience.
I'll trade you a can of pears for a book. How's that?
All right.
That I already have. Well, it's
We get 'em afterwards.
time to transition to something that people patiently wait for.
Yeah.
At Darkwood Brew every week. And with Frank being here, I can't help but draw some connections between Frank and I and our history and this meal here that we share. If you have elements at home you want to get them out now, we'd love to have you join us at this meal. We're going to just take a few seconds break and come back with the celebration of communion. Well, some of you who are familiar with Frank's my history, we've spoken together before and so forth, and both of us have been on a journey in life, and there was a time, quite honestly, in the early '90s, where this person who's sitting next to me right now as my good friend used to be the person of all the people in the world who I would have considered an enemy. It would have been Frank Schaeffer. And that because of history of mine and with aspects of his father and that he took on and the fundamentalism that I was reacting against, and I remember at the time being extremely impatient about religion and fundamentalism and so forth, and also rather self-righteous myself, in my own beliefs, But yet, looking over the last, since the '90s to now, there's been a whole sea change, and those things that we wanted to happen the day before yesterday, actually over time, through minute interactions between individual people, collectively, all over the country, getting to know each other, staying with each other for a few extra seconds before they wrote each other off, and so forth. People change, and while there are still big conflicts between, more liberal and more conservative Christians, there's a whole lot of folks on both sides who have instead of really coming together like this, they've kind of gone out from their own traditions and have found a meeting place out there beyond where either one of those sides have been. And that's taken decades. But the fact that the Spirit works slowly and incrementally in real change is absolutely responsible for the fact that we're even sitting here as friends tonight. There's hope if I can change and if Frank can change and you and I can change together. It creates these miracles. And I think that in this meal, think about what must have been going through Jesus's mind, or his followers' minds, or take Paul. While we were yet enemies, God came and shared life among us. And as God shared life among us, we broke the body of God's anointed. We shed his blood. You think we were enemies while we were yet enemies. And yet, God had far more patience than we ever had. Far more patience than we ever had with each other. Far more patience than we ever had with God. Far more patience than we ever had with ourselves, quite frankly. And because God had patience, chesed, steadfast, patient, covenanted love, we are all here tonight to share in this meal. This is the bread of life, the cup of blessing. I invite you to enjoy the feast. Thanks for joining us, you guys. It's wonderful to have you back again. And thank you for joining us tonight as well for this episode of Darkwood Brew. Very much looking forward to next week as well. And actually, we're looking forward to tomorrow night. If you want to get online and join us, the Center for Faith Studies at Countryside Community Church is featuring Frank Schaeffer, who's speaking about his new book, Why I Am an Atheist Who Believes in God. And he'll have copies of that also
are.
for sale after Darkwood Brew tonight, and also after that talk tomorrow. That will be streaming live at 7 p.m. Central Time. Next week, we're very pleased to be joined by musical guest David Zoller and Matt Wallace, and by scholar guest Professor Rolf Jacobson from Luther Seminary as well. So it's going to be an incredible show next week. Rolf is a great Old Testament scholar and the co-creator of the narrative lectionary. Until then, my friends, may the Spirit of the living God, made known to us most patiently in Jesus Christ our Lord, go before you to show you the way, go above you to watch over you, go behind you to push you into places you may not necessarily go yourself, go beneath you to uphold you and uplift you, go beside you to be your strong and constant companion, and dwell within you to remind you that you are surely not alone, and you are loved, loved beyond your wildest imagination. And may the fire of God's blessing burn brightly upon you and within you, now and always. Amen.
In the middle of the forest, under the shadows of the trees, I had wandered through the darkness until the way was lost to me. But it was there I heard her calling, and it was there I found belief, and it was then that I found courage in the hour of my need. And I walk on foot with the faith and trust to guide me through the darkest wood, Darkwood. In the valley of the shadows, there is nothing I shall fear, 'cause if the dark should overwhelm